Good morning. This is College Football 134 live on the Covers YouTube channel and Twitter account this Saturday morning. That is Andrew Caley. I am Douglas Farmer. And Andrew, I think we have some family business to sort out today. Not between you and me, but in these conference races. Are you ready for some big name tilts today?
Of course I'm ready for some big name tilts. It's the third Saturday in October. Actually, just can't believe that it's also the third Saturday in October already. Like, the season's just flying by. It's a good one, and we're gonna have a good one here. Also, please let's note the Friday curse continues. I have it was just funny last night. So I was prepping for this show last night, and I was sending out my tweet.
You did show prep? You did show. Hey, folks, good news. We're starting to look like a professional operation.
Wow. Just, it's okay. You can throw me under the bus. It's okay. It's your thing. We get it now. Anyways, sending out this tweet where I'm like, getting ready to watch Ollie Gordon get stuffed by this BYU defense. And literally the second I hit send, he rushes for a 50-yard touchdown and sinks my under 62.5 almost instantly. But, that happens. It's college football. Great win by BYU at the end there. That was kind of crazy. But we also gave out a midweek play on AJ Turner, 100-plus yards at plus 145 on that hit. So we're up. We're actually up heading into this weekend. So can't complain about that.
That is where not only should you be subscribing to the show, listening to the Tuesday podcast, folks, apparently you need to now start paying attention to Andrew's Twitter account throughout the week. We will give him that credit because that was a nice little piece of cash from him. And I will acknowledge, Jared, yes, that was an extra hype. Good morning. I saw Andrew's tweet and debacle and disaster and loss as I was walking home from a glorious Minnesota Lynx win to force Game 5. I might be low on sleep, but for once, I'm high on energy. So let's keep moving. Let's enjoy this. As you can see, the chat is already going off. Bobby Newport understands what is what. Links in 5. Keep the chat going for us. We will keep going to those comments. And Andrew, what's even more important than the chat? Everybody, like this video, subscribe to the Covers YouTube channel, then go find College Football 134 on all your podcast platforms. Subscribe there as well. We really do value and work hard on our Tuesday show. Sometimes harder than our Saturday show, but that's because we find the value. We'll get to that later. Right now, we should dive into today's huge games. And I don't just mean the biggest SEC tilts. We spent time on those on Tuesday. We'll get to them again today because, yes, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, we have to discuss them more than once in a week. But, Andrew, there are others. There are other games today aside from the NFL's cousin. Do you know what ones I'm talking about? I'm thinking maybe we should talk about something like Nebraska and Indiana. Noon Eastern on Fox. Indiana is
Whoa. You're gonna say the NFL's cousin SEC when all the Big Ten is trying to do is not be the SEC's little brother anymore? Let's pump the brakes a little bit there, bud.
I am willing to have this debate with you because I get things like Nebraska and Indiana on my side. Indiana and Curt Cignetti's dynamic and enjoyable offense. And then I also, on my side, I have things like Wisconsin and Northwestern, the Big Ten West Memorial Game of the Week. The SEC can't claim these joys.
Of course they can. They've got Vanderbilt. This is
like I said, the SEC can't claim these joys.
And if we're giving Vandy some love, let's also point out the fact that once again in the preseason show, I gave out Indiana over 5.5 wins this season. They're 6-0. The Hoosiers minus 6.5 point favorites with a total of 49.5. Douglas, how you seeing this one?
I wanted to bet this game all week. I never could get myself to, not on a show or in a column, but also not with my private money, my personal life. I want to put my faith in Nebraska's defensive line. It is the crux of this Huskers' excellent defense, but I don't have enough faith in either Matt Rule or Dylan Raiola. I am inclined to trust Curt Cignetti. This offense has been a joy, but 6.5 it's not a small number when you're facing what is clearly the better defense. So I could never get myself to this game. I am looking forward to it. It might be my favorite game of this noon slate. So instead of taking a nap, I'll be watching this and counting on it for some energy.
You mean you're not going to be watching your very favorite Mario and Louisville?
Mario certainly will not have the audio. I know that much for sure.
I get it. I get it. I've been hearing a lot of the same thing, like people liking getting the points with Nebraska because of that defensive line. I am a little unsure. I've loved watching Kirk Cignetti and Curtis Rourke in this Hoosiers offense. They lead the country in success rate. Like, I don't know if many people realize that the Hoosiers lead the country in offensive success rate. And while Nebraska has shut down a good offense, they're not as well coached. Like, we'll call it Colorado. Colorado's offense is not a well coached team. Cignetti is on a whole different level here. Then for me, there's the Dylan Raiola factor. He's definitely looked worthy of the hype at times, but he's also looked like a freshman at times. And Nebraska ranks 87th in offensive success rate in dropbacks. And then we haven't really talked about Indiana's defense. 31st in defensive success rate. So it's been like sneaky good at the same time. That offense is getting all the prep. The defense hasn't been terrible. This is about where I would have lined this game. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, and I don't see a ton of value in it. Slight lean towards the Hoosiers here, but not, I don't have, like you said, I couldn't get myself, I was like looking at team totals, I was looking at the spread, like I just couldn't get myself anywhere. So I actually am exactly like you. I have no bets on this game right now, but
one item
towards the Hoosiers.
One item I looked at the longest was the under. When Sunday came, last Sunday, I thought, I'm going to hit the under on that because that's me showing faith in Nebraska while not, like that Nebraska is going to dictate the year, but at 49.5 is too key of a number. Really, this feels like a game where if it had ever fallen below 6 or above 7, I'd have bet it. If the total had ever fallen below 49, I'd have bet the over. These are such key numbers. It's not that I know that like, oh no, this is perfectly lined. These are such key numbers. They usually have a better feel for a game if it should be at 6.5. Yeah. It's a little frustrating though when there's a game like this and I am this excited that I can't find a way to believe in a bet.
Yeah, that is too bad.
One game, another game, frankly, I have not bet. LSU at Arkansas, 7:00 Eastern on ESPN. LSU is a 2.5-point favorite, and I wanted to highlight this one in case I'm proven right because this could be a problem for Mike the Tiger. It's a letdown spot for LSU coming off that big overtime win at home against Mississippi. Come back. Garrett Nussmeier having a great game-tying drive, if my memory is serving me correctly. But LSU, you can't lose. You're going against an Arkansas team that is bad enough that you might overlook them, but good enough that they'd make you pay for it. I am looking at this one with I might be cracking some Mai Tais on the beach joke afterward if this goes a certain way.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I'm not a believer in LSU still. We talked about this. We talked about this on
4 loss.
Yeah, I did. And they might not get there this year, but they still have a chance. I said this on Tuesday. I think that win on last weekend was more about Lane Kiffin fumbling that bag than it was LSU. I think LSU is still what we've thought they were all season. They have a very good quarterback with a weird offensive line that looks like one of the best in the country when they're pass blocking, but can't run block for the life of them. With a shaky defense. And that's what we saw in that win, but Mississippi kind of gave that game away. And I think they can kind of fall forwards into another win at this spot. Arkansas has been inconsistent. And it sounds to me like if Taylor Green it sounded like he's pretty banged up, and that's not going to help them, obviously. So I don't hate the Tigers here laying less than a field goal, but once again, like you, I'm not confident in any bet when it comes to that. I'm not going to call anything a best bet here, that's for sure.
I no longer keep track of every Brian Kelly trend. It was my job for a long while. He is very good at winning the games he's supposed to win. That has been when Notre Dame found that level of consistency. It was because they won 40 straight games where they were favored. That is one thing that gets me, again, considering, but that's not enough on its own to make me bet LSU. It's a thought and it's something to remember, but maybe it's just I haven't paid enough attention to Arkansas this year to know if I need to hate them or not.
I had to Bobby Newport said that can Arky score enough to win this. If Taylor Green was 100%, maybe, but that sounds like he's not. So I'd say probably not.
My one note on Arkansas's offense is it ranks number 114 in the country on finishing quality drives at 2.54 points per quality drive. Now, if they early in the game have a quality drive or two and turn those into touchdowns, that is an immediate thought of, hey, maybe they actually had a good game plan this week. That would be a thing that would get me to live bet it if Arkansas is consistently scoring on early quality drives. Now, a game that I know you had to write up. I believe you have bet at least a little bit. Alabama, a field goal favorite at Tennessee. That's the mid-afternoon on ABC. Who is going to be lighting up the cigars? For those that don't know, for some reason, I've never quite figured it out. The winner of this game always smokes cigars. It will, and the fans will as well. So if Tennessee wins this, you will see an absolute haze down there on Rocky Top. I stared at a Tennessee team total under around 27. It very much seems like the SEC has figured out Josh Heupel's offense. Nico Iamaleava does not have a secondary break-in receiver, but I could not get myself. This is another game where I effectively chickened out. But I will say, like I said on Tuesday, on our Tuesday show, this is going to put someone out of the SEC race and very close to out of the playoff race.
Yeah, you have a zero margin for error if you lose this game. You're right. I did write this up. And on Tuesday, I gave out under 28.5 in the first half. It was down to 27.5, but I just checked right now and I'm at 365. You can get under 28.5 first half again at minus 110. So that's still available. The thinking there for me, Alabama's offense has obviously been quite explosive with Jalen Milroe, right? Like they came out flying against Georgia in that first half, but they've been inconsistent, right? Like they haven't been able to generate consistent long drives, and passing and running the football has been without Jalen Milroe has been kind of hit or miss for them. And if there's a defense, we've talked about this a lot. If there's a defense out there that can at least limit some of those big plays from Alabama, it's James Pierce and Tennessee. Like I really, really like this unit. I think it's the best unit on the field in this matchup. Then you're like you said, they're at Rocky Top. It's going to be super crazy there in Knoxville today. One obviously explosive plays would limit that, but like I think even better is a long drive, like 10 plays, and they just suck the air right out of the crowd. And I can see DeBoer being more deliberate in his play calling in the first half, when really trying to take the energy out of this game. And then there's Tennessee's offense, which is scoring 21 points per game now after just exploding out of the gates against some poor competition. And now just 20.
That's bad.
21
right?
points. It's bad. 21 points per game in SEC play. Like that's Nico, another guy who's looking like a young quarterback here once the competition has gotten a little tougher. Now, I expect Josh Heupel to have something in his bag for this one, right? Like he's been holding. You have to think he's been holding something back for this matchup, right? You're shaking your head. What do you think? Do you think he's got something there?
It's been too many games now where they haven't had it, and he kind of had the same problem down at Central Florida of once defenses and people could say, well, why couldn't they have just watched it before that first season? It's different when you know who they're going against, and so you know that defense's weakness, and so what did they exploit? You can get a better feel for them, and that's where conference play can help coaches. It's been too many games now. It's starting to feel like the SEC knows if Tennessee doesn't have that speedster receiver they can really lean on, you can cause problems as long as you have a defensive line that causes pressure on its own. This is the SEC. There are defensive lines that cause pressure just on their own.
Yeah. Here's the other stat. Tennessee 119th in yards per play in SEC play. Like that's just so not generating much. And like you said, that Alabama's issue has been its secondary and giving up explosive plays, but that defensive front has been getting some pressure. So that's going to be a problem for Nico in this one as well. So I like I said, under 28.5 in the first half. That's my favorite bet here. I came really close. Like I wrote up the column and they make us do this little blurb now. Who's going to win? I picked Alabama to win. Just because I think Milroe has proven that he is the more capable quarterback in these pressure situations.
Well, absolutely.
And that's just to me, that's the biggest difference here. And I think Nico might get a little overwhelmed in this spot. I if this line was 3.5, I'd be like, here, give me Tennessee at the points at 3.5, and I'll middle myself and take Alabama to win. Yeah, I took Alabama to win the game.
It sounds to me, and now neither of us bet these spreads, neither of us bet these favorites, but you are leaning LSU and Alabama are going to keep their playoff hopes and, for that matter, SEC championship hopes alive today. You are leaning toward both of those, correct?
Correct.
It will be curious, and that is where people can knock the 12-team playoff. I wouldn't care about LSU, Arkansas. You'd be trying to talk me into LSU winning the SEC. It would not matter. This is where every one of these games now has more imports. Now, one game we'd care about regardless. One game we would be dialed up for. One game that would be our show thumbnail no matter what. Georgia at Texas, prime time on ABC. Texas, a 4.5-point favorite. I said it on Tuesday. I still believe it. This is a kitchen sink kind of game for Georgia. They cannot hold anything back. That improved offense that I've been trying to talk about all week, and I usually just ramble. Will you indulge me a little bit of rambling all over again?
Ramble. The floor is yours.
It's now graphic design is clearly my passion. When I put this on the screen, I want to acknowledge that ahead of time. This is what has my attention in this game. It's the fact that Georgia's offense has gotten better. The numbers on the left were Georgia's offense before Alabama. The numbers on the right are Georgia's offense now. In other words, Georgia is running the ball. Let's see here. 0.109 EPA per rush now, whereas going into Alabama, it was 0.085. That is a distinct improvement. Let's call that a 20% improvement, even though they are running significantly less often. I'm seeing those kinds of things, and I keep thinking that Georgia offense has figured enough out. It might give Texas reason to be worried today. Jameson, I would never come for your job. I could not do the very little work that you did. Did I say that? Oh, shoot. I said that out loud.
Okay. My gut says Kirby Smart is an underdog. We're getting like 5 points. Like, do you know the last time Kirby Smart was an underdog, Doug? You ruin all of my questions. So did you ruin this one? Do you know it off the top of your head at least?
It's like 3+ seasons, isn't it?
It was week 1 in 2021 when they played Clemson on a neutral site.
That's the game I talked about before the Clemson game this year. That's the 10-3 where the only touchdown was a 60-some yard interception return.
Correct. So they won, and that was obviously the first win that season on the way to Kirby Smart's first national championship.
Yes.
So it's been a little while. It's been a time since they've been an underdog. That said, my brain says Texas here. Like, not only has Georgia looked a little more vulnerable, but Texas, I think, has really looked the part of a number one team. For my money, top to bottom, that is the best roster in college football. We can argue about Ohio State another time if you like. I know you like having that argument. Texas, 4th in EPA per play and success rate on offense, 3rd in EPA per play, and 5th in defensive success rate. And beyond all of that stuff, the number one unit in this game, the best group of players in this game, is the Texas offensive line. And I think they are the difference in this game going up against a Georgia pass rush that it's kind of shocking to say, right? Because we were so used to Georgia just being able to dominate in the trenches. That's why they won those national championships, obviously, or at least a big reason why. They've struggled to get an effective pass rush this year, and I think they're going to continue to struggle against what I think is the best offensive line in the country. That lack of pass rush has resulted in the Bulldogs ranking a stunning 87th in defensive success rate on dropbacks. 87th. Like, that's crazy to me. Obviously, a lot of that is from Jalen Milroe in that Alabama game, but they've obviously had some issues there. And when you're giving Quinn Ewers that time, I know they came out. Someone made that ridiculous question to Sark this week, being like, would you make a switch at quarterback if Ewers is struggling in this game? And I was like, are you like, I want to state this again. Quinn Ewers is unequivocally a better quarterback at this moment in time than Arch Manning. If the Texas Longhorns' goal is to win a national championship this season, Arch Manning is not the quarterback. Quinn Ewers is. So yeah, there's my little rant right now. I think that offensive line gives Ewers enough time to work in this one. That's why I'd lean towards Texas -4.5. But I actually have a best bet for you in this game. I think you wrote this up as well in your prop bet, but I'm going with Isaiah Bond over 48.5 receiving yards. You can get that at -114 over at FanDuel. I've got to have prop bets for you guys on a Saturday morning. Bond, 21 catches for 369 yards and 3 scores this year. He's had at least 51 yards in the first 5 games of the season, I believe, before going just 1 for 5 last week against Oklahoma.
But that
and
was
you can tell,
with an ankle
you
injury.
can tell exactly. That was just like, that they were like, we don't need to pass the ball and beat Oklahoma, and they didn't. And I believe the game script will be a little different against Georgia here. I think this number is giving too much respect to the Georgia name. Like, this is a prop line that thinks this is a Georgia defense from 2001 and 2002. This is not that Georgia defense. So, like I said, I lean Texas here in the game. Once again, I did the write-up for this game. I picked Texas to win, but I love this prop bet. I think this is a really solid bet here.
I agree with you there. I wonder if I'm going to mention something. I'm not mentioning this to take a dig at you. I'm just using it as an example. I wonder if
to take a dig at me,
if his number might be depressed and or fluctuating a little bit for the same reasons Ollie Gordon's was, and that Ollie Gordon wasn't guaranteed available or guaranteed full go going into that game last night. And once it was clear he was, you saw that number climb. I suspect you saw, I believe you gave it out at 62.5. Yesterday,
yes.
It reached 65.5 early in the afternoon. And I think some of that was just Ollie's availability was more clear. I would not be stunned to see Isaiah Bond's number climb a little bit today from this 48.5, let's say 54.5. I realize 6 sounds like a big jump, but in receiving yards, it's less of a jump than rushing yards, obviously.
Correct.
I wonder if some of that is, well, people saw his ankle beat up last week, so they've lowered the number, but once it's clear all day today, they know. There's no whispers about Isaiah Bond. He's full go, then it might climb a little bit.
I still like getting it anyway. So
no, you're getting ahead of it. You're getting the better number. Now, you keep saying you have Texas to win there. You lean Texas to win. I want to point out what is my favorite bet of the day, but it's too bold for me to ever include anywhere as a best bet. In my best bets column, I did take the Georgia first half money line at +152. I keep calling it a kitchen sink game. Georgia, like Alabama and Tennessee and LSU, can't lose. Can't lose and have SEC title hopes. If you do lose, you're on the brink of the playoff. I think Georgia has to come out aggressive. I really like the idea of Georgia to win the first half, Texas to win the game. And you can put those together to the tune of about 6-1, folks.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I have not included that as a best bet. I'm never gonna come out here with a 6-1 as a best bet. But it's something to think about, and it's something that I might have personally invested a little bit in. It will, if I have a Georgia lead at halftime, I will be sitting very, very pretty, and I won't hedge, but I would even have hedging opportunities. That is my way of looking at that game and the game state that I'm expecting.
I love that. I'm trying to see if I can find an actual odds for this real quick right now.
I can tell you what I got it at. Hold on a moment. Let's see here. I got it at 655.
Okay, well, I might go make a bet right now.
Boy, you love to hear I've been that persuasive. Now, there's one more game of the day that we need to talk about. There's one more game that is a playoff preview. There's one more game that features the 2 front runners to win the national championship. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to discuss the Dakota marker. South Dakota State at North Dakota State. You can laugh, but that's prime time on ESPN2.
I was like, what is he talking about? I don't even feel like this is on the list.
If you look at our show outline, it's been on the list all along. Folks, he says he did show prep, but clearly, this is the top 2 teams in the FCS. So it needs to at least get this acknowledgement. South Dakota State should be and is favored by 2.5. I think it should be closer to 1.5. If I was betting this, I would look at the home underdog at +110. I mean, when I say if I was betting this, I would say I am betting this. It's not a best bet on the show, partially because corporate would probably shoot me if I started including FCS lines as bets on the show. but it's a game that you need to recognize has that import. It's before the season. Let's go to this point of reference. The Jackrabbits were short favorites to win the national title, plus 125 or plus 150. I can't find that available on the market right now, which is not shocking. But South Dakota State would not be that short of a title favorite right now. It's North Dakota State and Montana State are really nipping at its heels. So South Dakota State going on the road against its biggest rival and biggest challenge to win the national championship. This is a playoff preview. This really is a playoff preview.
Yeah, I honestly have not
It's okay. We all have
looked
flaws.
at this too. Oh, yeah. You love pointing out mine, that's for sure. But yeah, I would slightly lean towards the Jackrabbits, I guess, because they've just been the better program recently. The only FCS game I've watched or featuring an FCS team recently was that Colorado game against North Dakota State. Cam Miller was really good in that game. But yeah, it's in Fargo, so it should be a tight one.
I will acknowledge I was a little misleading in my build-up to that game. Brett Joseph, good friend, thought I was about to veer into Eastern Michigan territory. The Emus are a field goal favorite against Central Michigan. That is not one of my best bets, but I do like anytime I can fade Central Michigan at such a short number as neg 3, let alone when I get to do it with Chris Creighton.
So I want to give a shout out to a guy here too. His name's Sam Herder. He's a guy I followed when we were doing FCS coverage a few years ago during the pandemic when the schedule got all messed up and we got some spring ball. Really, really good guy. He is leaning towards North Dakota State at home. You can find him on Twitter and all his work there. He does really good FCS work. One of the better FCS coverage guys out there.
So it does sound like we just came up with two bets that are not official show bets, but North Dakota State plus 110, Eastern Michigan by a field goal, because remember folks, Emu all day. Emu all day. And it is, as we look at some comments here before we keep moving, we are a little derelict in our duties of including Maction this week. I don't know that I included any Maction in our show outline. That is my failure. So appreciate Bobby Newport, appreciate Brett Joseph coming out and calling us out on that, keeping us honest.
So I did write up Bowling Green minus 10.5 in the first half against Kent State this week. But then you came at me after I published the post and you're like, what's up with Connor Bazelak? And I was like, I'm not sure. Sounds like he's good to go. I think the Falcons are good enough that they can handle Kent State even without him. Like, I know they had a bit of a letdown game against Old Dominion, but like, this is a team that played to one possession games at Texas A&M, at Happy Valley. Kent State, they bad.
All right, you know what? You talked me into it. I see right now that's available at 20.5. I'm going to add that to my personal ledger. Bowling Green, 20.5, partly because that Kent State cover last week was some of the most appalling nonsense I've ever seen.
It was crazy. It was so crazy.
It was infuriating. I don't even want to talk about it in public because I think I'll say things that would jeopardize my job.
Well, there you go. We got a little Maction on there now.
Let's go to one more piece of Maction before we keep moving through our show notes. Keep the comments coming, folks. It helps us break up the show, helps us remember what games we did not discuss enough. And one game we have not discussed enough is Vanderbilt in a worrying spot against Ball State as a 4-touchdown favorite. I realize I just described the Vanderbilt Commodores as 4-touchdown favorites.
I am Team Vandy. I'm Team Diego Pavia. I looked really hard at getting a Vandy bet in this game. I just couldn't get there. I know our friend Parker, he's got Vandy by a lot in this game. Like, the numbers are very staggering in favor of Vanderbilt.
Wow.
You brought up the graph. I can tell you.
Wow.
Folks,
just for the record, Parker makes this game a 47-point spread.
A 47-point spread. And I'm maybe thinking Ball State under its team total. I'm very, very close to a Vandy over team total of 41.5. I was trying to Bet365 even had Diego Pavia rushing props, but that got hit already. It went from 51.5 to 56.5, and he's only gone over that number once this year. And like they're really good at when they have had games where they've been dominating, they spread the ball around to a lot of guys, so it's hard to like focus in on a player prop for the Commodores. So it was really difficult, but I don't know. I'm gonna kick myself if I don't make a play here and they win by 40.
You said that, did I hear you right, that rushing prop went up by 5 yards?
Yes.
I would consider the Ashton Jeanty approach. And if Diego Pavia is not going to play enough in the second half, there might be a chance to get under that rushing total, especially if you're getting the best number, if it's already climbed to 56.5. I realize I'm now, and by suggesting that, I just went counter to what you were leaning, but I'm effectively saying they're going to play so well, they're going to fall short of the prop.
And that's kind of what I was like. That's why the number went up. And like I looked at his rushing yards and his distribution of the way they hand off the ball in games where they've held leads. And it's like, it makes me a little wary. Like, yes, they could win by 40, but like maybe nobody hits the over on their props at the same time. Like it's a weird situation. I think my favorite leans would be them over their team total or Ball State under theirs.
All of which to say to our original question, Tyler, no, we don't think Vanderbilt is in a trap spot as a 4-touchdown favorite.
Well, that goes back to right after winning the Alabama game, right? Like Pavia was like, "Hey, like this Kentucky game means something. This Vanderbilt team wants to go to a bowl game. They are not there yet. They only have 4 wins. This Ball State game is like when we made our bets. Like this was the game we circled, right? This was Vandy goes over their win total in the Ball State game. So they're going to have to focus here to get that 5th win, and then they can start looking for that 6th, because then the schedule gets a little like it gets SEC schedule afterwards. So there's no guarantee they get that 6th win, but they've proven that they are dedicated to working hard and keeping this thing going. So I don't think they're in a trap spot.
Now that we've fulfilled our contractual obligations of MAC discussions and our personal moral obligations of Diego Pavia praise, let's remind folks, like the video, subscribe, and Andrew, can I hit you with some rapid fire?
Please do.
I want to start off with a game you mentioned earlier. It's in that news slate. Miami, Louisville. If that spread were to get up to, let's say, 6.5, would you finally find yourself betting on the Cardinals' sham of an offense? It's 5.5 in favor of Miami right now, but there's a point where you just cannot trust Mario Cristobal, right?
My thinking is I remove Mario Cristobal from this equation. The only thing I trust here is Cam Ward. And I've got more on that later. I'll tease it a little bit. I've got more on Cam Ward later, but I will not trust Louisville at all. Like once again, there's more I can get into, but so yeah, I trust in Cam Ward.
Okay, next one. South Carolina is about a pick 'em at Oklahoma. I believe South Carolina is now a 1.5 favorite. Again, that's a tease. But at 4-2 right now, you'd think the Sooners should feel confident in going to a bowl game. But if they lose today, they have to go to Mississippi. They have to go to Missouri. They have to go to LSU. They have to host Alabama. Sure, they get to play FCS-level Maine. But if Oklahoma loses today, is Brent Venables going to a bowl game in his 3rd season in Norman?
That's a good question. I say yes, because that defense is good enough to maybe he'll trip up Mississippi again, or I don't know. I think he's a good matchup. I think Oklahoma's probably a good matchup against LSU, sort of thing. Like I think they get there.
Okay, that is more Oklahoma optimism than I was expecting. So let's go with some pessimism. Let's go with some of our general cynicism. Kansas is favored by 5.5 against Houston today.
Poor Kansas.
Let's bring back one of my favorite bits. Jalen Daniels has thrown at least 1 interception in 6 of 7 games this season. 8 picks total. Will he throw one today against Willie Fritz's defense? Will he throw 2?
Yes, he will. He will throw 1. He will throw at least 1.
Okay. I need to owe you an apology. I need to acknowledge I was wrong about something this week in one of our many conversations. I told you that Wisconsin at Northwestern was not at Martin Stadium, a.k.a. Lake Michigan Stadium. I was wrong. It is at Lake Michigan Stadium. Wisconsin is an 8-point favorite. The total is 41.5. Now, hold on a second, Andrew. This total opened at 41.5 on Sunday. It has not moved. Parker makes it about 45. SP Plus makes it 42. Did I maybe do you a favor with my mistake?
No. It is windy there. It is cold. We are going under. I don't, it's not a best bet, but I will be looking at it very closely as kickoff approaches.
I've now
Sorry for
added that
screaming
to
in
my
your ear.
list of things I will add to my week as of this morning, things this show talks me into. I am going to put that on there partially because I owe a mea culpa for having that wrong information with you. One last piece of the rapid fire. Trent Dilfer's reported buyout of $4.1 million would be a bargain at twice the price, even for an athletic department as cash strapped as UAB's. I mean, UAB is a 2-touchdown underdog at South Florida today. UAB is 0-5 against FBS competition, losing by an average of 28.8 points. Am I overreacting, or is $4.1 million a bargain to get rid of Trent Dilfer right now?
Get rid the high. I was so happy when UAB got their football program back, and to bring in a guy who had no college experience whatsoever was just, it feels like a mistake. I don't know. I've seen enough of him on the sideline to know, like, this is a problem. Buy him out. Move on. Go.
It is time. I did not include that as a best bet anywhere this week because my entire analysis of UAB ain't going to bet against itself wasn't necessarily proper content or more than 100 words. But folks, UAB ain't going to bet against itself. As long as you're getting that number less than 14, I advise it. Let's come back to more comments in a little bit. Let's come back to more just general conversations in a little bit. We need to pat, well, mostly me, on the back
this week.
for my Tuesday work. You carried the Tuesday work last week at Finding Value. This week it was me. That Colorado money line, it was 143 on Tuesday. It's now plus 115. Miami, I gave out Miami on Tuesday as a 4-point favorite, now 5.5. I like both those coming my way. We had one line move against us. You with Texas Tech going from 6.5 on Tuesday to 5.5 now. But still, look at that. Of our plays, 2 come our way, 1 goes against. Folks, that's why the Tuesday show is important.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't get the Texas Tech line move. Like, I just don't. I'm not going to bet it again, but like, if somebody tells me they like Texas Tech at 5.5, I'm going to agree with you. I think Baylor, like we said, they're one of our top contenders on Quit Watch right now. Like, that's a bad state for them.
Would you consider the over in that game? I know you are generally a fan of the Texas Tech offense.
I am, but I am not a fan of that Baylor offense. So I don't. It's maybe, yeah, lean over slightly, but
55 or 55.5 if you are curious.
Slightly and over, but I don't know. That Baylor offense has been really inconsistent.
Now, if that's our Tuesday value, we should go find more today. Folks, please go find College Football 134 on all your podcast platforms. Like it, subscribe to it, listen to it there. We do good work on that Tuesday show, but we are here on Saturday morning. Do you want to lead us off with one of your – you already have one best bet in today. You got another for me?
I got another one. We're going to go with another player prop here. We have talked a lot in the past about how Louisville's offense is fraudulent, right? But we haven't talked a lot about how actually bad their defense is at the same time. So we're going with Cam Ward over 321.5 passing yards, minus 114 at FanDuel. Cardinals rank 107th in the country in success rate on dropbacks, 79th in EPA per dropback. And like, if you didn't know, Douglas, Cam Ward he's pretty good. He's pretty good at football. He's thrown for 2,200 yards already this season, 20 touchdowns, just 5 picks. He's completing 70% of his passes. He's gone over this number. Sorry, he's not just gone over this number. He's hit at least 343 in 5 of his 6 starts. The one he didn't was against FCS Florida A&M, where they basically didn't throw in the second half, and he still ended with 304 yards and 3 touchdowns. I see a lot of game scripts where this number goes over. If Miami is winning, it's because Cam Ward is having a good game. If Miami is losing, Cam Ward's going to have to throw the football, and against a sketchy Louisville pass defense. So over. I love this play. I saw Bobby say 3+ passing touchdowns for Cam Ward. I was looking at the passing touchdowns. He's done 3 or more passing touchdowns, I believe, in 5 of the 6 as well. But I was just seeing minus 150. When I'm doing something like that, I'd prefer a plus money or a closer to even money on the touchdown passes. There can be a little more variance there. So I like the yards here. Really like this play over 321.5, which is minus 114 over at FanDuel.
I did not anticipate us effectively doubling up on Miami today because if you remember, I gave out Miami neg 4 on Tuesday. Like I said, it's now at 5.5. So we are putting a lot of faith in Mario
Not in
Cristobal
Mario.
today.
Not in Mario. Cam Ward.
Let me get us out of that. Let me get us out of that very uncomfortable area of trusting Mario Cristobal. Let me go to one of our. You are always a fan of prop bets on Saturday mornings. We are both always fans of team totals all week long, and I've got one that is a ripe example of why we like to target team totals. All week long, Notre Dame was a 10.5, 11.5 point favorite against Georgia Tech. It fell to 10. And then when Haynes King got ruled out, it jumped to 14 for Notre Dame. Okay, 4-point move, starting quarterback, not that shocking. But the total didn't move all 49.5. Why not? I think it's expecting backup quarterback Zach Pyron to be in over his head. Probably cough up a mistake or two that puts Notre Dame in the ripe scoring territory. And right there, we have compensated for losing Haynes King in terms of the total. But Georgia Tech offense is still going to struggle compared to that total. I am looking at the Georgia Tech team total under 16.5, available at neg 102 at FanDuel. I think this is a game where Georgia Tech is now in a bad spot. And so when, not if, but when Notre Dame takes a healthy lead, Georgia Tech is going to either have to commit to the pass, which backup quarterback is backup quarterback for a reason, and committing to the pass will allow a very good Notre Dame defensive line to pin its ears back and raise some hell. Or Georgia Tech's going to have to lean on a run game that will not make up a multiple possession deficit. Either approach is going to help my team total under. The most curious stat in this game is Georgia Tech has given up only 1 sack this season for a loss of 1 yard. Notre Dame ranks number 25 in the country in logging 2.67 sacks per game. I suspect Notre Dame gets a 10, 14-point lead and then starts racking up a couple more sacks. Really, because without Haynes King, I don't know if Georgia Tech's offense can function well enough.
Yeah, I'm a big Haynes King guy. He is that offense. So without him, like at Notre Dame, that defense has been their strength all season. I see what you're thinking here.
It's nice to hear you say that about me every once in a while. What do you have for us?
Gotta prop you up every now and then. Next, it's not Maction, but we're going out to the Sun Belt, so hopefully you guys enjoy this a little bit. We're going. Give me Texas State minus 9.5 against Old Dominion. It's minus 112 over at DraftKings. That's the best line I saw. Texas State 4-2 entering this game, but they're like 2 plays away from being 6-0 this season. Offense has looked really good with Jordan McLeod. Really fun. They're averaging 38.2 points per game. They rank 18th in offensive success rate on dropbacks and 33rd in EPA per dropbacks. And that's exactly where you want to be attacking this Old Dominion team is their secondary. The other reason I like this is that the Bobcats defense has been kind of sneaky good, 37th in success rate, and the Monarchs offense has been pretty much awful, like 111th in success rate. Bobcats, they're still undefeated in conference play. They're motivated to stay that way. If they don't lose again and like things get a little sideways in some other conference, they're probably out of the playoff picture. But I don't know, you'd probably need UNLV and Boise State to each have a couple of losses. The Sun Belt's not looking great for one of those playoff spots at the moment, but they'll still be motivated to get the job done here. I have this as more of a 2-touchdown win for the Bobcats. So yeah, give me Texas State minus 9.5.
Getting that below the key number of 10 might get me to join you. I will have to ponder that a little bit after the show. I like where you're going there. I am going to keep us in the group of 5. I am going to talk about a more genuine playoff contender, if that's okay with you.
That's
I'm
fine.
going to talk about one you've heard me talk about before, and you will hear me talk about again. I will promise you right now, come Tuesday's show, I'll be taking a money line starting off with the word UNLV. Today, I am taking the UNLV team total over 33.5 at Oregon State because you know what hasn't changed? What hasn't changed is the world does not yet properly appreciate UNLV's offense. As a reminder, Matthew Sluka left this offense after 2 games. At that point, the Rebels were running the ball 17.2% more often than the average team would. Now, 5 games in, that number is less than 8%. I don't have the exact math in front of me, but the rough math is UNLV has run 1.7% more often with Haj Malik Williams. Now, That's pretty much average. That balanced attack will lean on the explosive passing game tonight because Oregon State gives up explosive passes. The Beavers are at their worst when the Rebels are at their best, when all options are available on early downs. Oregon State ranks number 126 in defensive EPA on first and second downs. UNLV ranks number 26 on those early downs. Ricky White III, Jacob DeJesus have a day at the expense of the Oregon State secondary. Over 33.5 because the world does not yet understand the Rebels are that good.
Yeah, they are. This switch at quarterback has been such a blessing in disguise for them.
Oh, it hasn't been in disguise. It hasn't been in disguise.
No, sorry, not in disguise. Sorry. It's been quite obvious.
Last week, I think that was a weeknight game. I think that was a Friday night game. They are kicking the life out of Utah State, and they just fold up shop in the second half. Don't even cover the game. And all the world really noticed was UNLV didn't cover the – no, folks, that cost me some money. But I noticed, hey, the world doesn't understand yet because that optically was disappointing. So there will be value for me moving forward. By moving forward, I mean tonight at Oregon State.
There you go. So we can leave the group of 5 now. And I'm going to go back to my favorite Big 12. Kansas State travels to Morgantown to take on West Virginia. And this total stood out to me on Monday, and it's still sticking out to me now. I'm going under 55.5 between the Wildcats and Mountaineers. I'm guessing we're getting a number this high because they've put up some good offensive numbers against poor defenses generally, but there's a story behind these numbers, and for me to like the under here, both these teams run the football a lot. Like Kansas State ranks 34th in rush play percentage. West Virginia is 24th. Both have solid run defenses. K-State 38th in success rate against the rush. West Virginia 45th. Now, West Virginia's pass defense has been a little shaky, but I'm still not a believer that Avery Johnson is the type of guy that can consistently take advantage of that matchup. So that doesn't worry me so much in this matchup. So we basically have a lot of running the football against some solid run defenses. That's just spells under to me all day. So I like under 55.5 in this matchup.
While we're on it, let me throw us off pace and point out Bobby Newport saying neg 3 all day. I'm assuming he's referencing Kansas State. I'm seeing 2.5 and 3 on that. Do you lean any direction there? Your best bet was the under 55.5. Do you lean any way on the spread?
No, because I can see both teams winning a close game here. Garrett Green could show up. I think Garrett Green is the slightly better passer, so I like that. Kansas State has the slightly better defense. Like the edges are pretty slim in from what I'm looking at, so I prefer. That's why I prefer the total here. I see the game script, and that's what has me looking at that.
There is another game where I considered the under. I hinted at this one earlier. I am out on all things Oklahoma, and I'm not just talking
made that pretty clear, eh?
I'm not talking like the state and the lifestyle. I'm talking the Oklahoma offensive line. So I am taking South Carolina at neg 1, neg 105 at BetMGM. I want to make it clear. I am in part betting on South Carolina's defensive line. I am in part betting against Oklahoma's offensive line. And I am in part betting against Oklahoma's overall vibes right now. Their bowl eligibility, like I said earlier, less and less likely. But I want to look at the exact discrepancy between the lines when Oklahoma has the ball. Tackles for loss allowed. Oklahoma ranks number 119 in the country at north of 7 per game. Tackles for loss yardage lost. Oklahoma ranks number 98, 154 yards lost. Sacks allowed, 128. Now, remember, folks, we are college football 134. There are 134 teams at the FBS level. For Oklahoma to rank 128 in the country at 3.33 sacks per game is a bad look. Is that why Jackson Arnold is considering redshirting and he just doesn't want to get beat up anymore? No, I'm being hyperbolic. But the fact that you have headlines coming out that Jackson Arnold is considering redshirting, and Brent Venables says, "Yeah, no, we need to give everybody a chance at this." That's not a good look. South Carolina's defensive line is going to make life worse. Averages more than 7 tackles for loss per game. Ranks number 4 in the country in 220 yards forced loss in 6 games. They rank number 10 in sacks, more than 3 per game. Number 5 in sack yardage at 158 on the season. South Carolina's defensive line is going to make life miserable for Oklahoma's offense. And when things are already going badly, and now I get to take a better defensive line against your Colorado-esque offensive line, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take South Carolina in egg one.
Yeah, South Carolina's been super scrappy the last few weeks. They've been Shane Beamer's like coaching to save his job, it feels like, and he's done a good job the last couple weeks. They
Yeah,
probably should have beaten Alabama. Like it was, and they've yeah, I've been impressed. I'm stunned about how impressed I've been with the way they've played the last few weeks. So yeah, don't hate that at all.
I've been a little frustrated with myself on that bet. I stared at it all week. It was available at plus 125 or plus 1-3 on the spread, and I couldn't get myself there until late last night. I realized last night I was kind of focusing on defensive lines this week, which is I'm never going to be upset about. If I'm focusing on defensive lines, I'm doing something right. Notre Dame is a defensive line bet. My long Nebraska want was a defensive line thought, and taking South Carolina here is a defensive line bet.
College football is another thing that really if you can focus on that, you can make a solid handicap in college football. Yeah, I think you made another late night play that we kind of just realized we agreed on as we were about to start the show. We're going back to the Big 12. This is my final best bet of the week. This is the Pac-12 After Dark Memorial Game of the week as TCU travels to Utah. That's an 11:30 Eastern time kick.
Are you asking me or telling me?
10:30. I believe it's 10:30, 11:30 Eastern.
Oh, that's right. You struggle with time zones. It is 10:30 Eastern time.
Oh, sorry. It's 11:30 for me because we're in this weird,
you don't
not
exist.
northern section of Canada. This is a Utah pod. Not really. Pour one out for my ticket, but yes, it's still a Utah pod. Pour one out for Cam Rising. If he does play, if he redshirts, come back for an 8th year, that'll be crazy. But I don't think it'll be for Utah because it seems like Isaac Wilson is the future. I know he's been pretty bad, but they've been pretty like he's going to be the guy going forward. But we're going with Utah -3 in this matchup against TCU. It's not about Cam Rising. It's not about Isaac Wilson. This is about a bad TCU team heading to Rice-Eccles Stadium at night against what is still a very good Utah defense. And this line just feels like an overreaction. We talked about this before the show. This line hit the board at around 6.5 on Monday. 7.
I saw 7 on Sunday.
7 on Sunday. I assume with the thinking that Cam Rising had still a chance to be the quarterback in this matchup. And then the news came out that he's going to be done for the season, and the line jumped to 4.5. And now we're down to a field goal. And I just don't get it. Like, this TCU team has not been good this year. The defense, like, if Isaac Wilson is able to do something, it's going to be against this TCU defense that has ranked 94th in success rate, 85th in opponent EPA per play. Like, it's not a good group. And while the offense has been fine, like, this is still, like I said, a very good Utah defense playing at home. They love playing in front of that crowd. They love playing at night. 8th in defensive success rate. Like, this screams overreaction to me, and Utah -3 all day for me.
I obviously agree with you. Like you said, I mentioned to you, full disclosure to those who haven't heard me say these things before, I will see your bets right before we're going live. I will see them on the bottom of our outline. And I mentioned to you, yeah, one of the last things I did before I got an hour of sleep was take Utah at that field goal. It's another defensive line play, quite frankly. But the thing that really put me over the edge was seeing a quote, not a quote, but seeing a comment from earlier in the week from the Utah press conference. I'm assuming this was from Kyle Whittingham. They had struggled to have an Isaac Wilson game plan when they were also still considering and likely playing Cam Rising, because with Cam Rising's finger injury, they couldn't get him under center. They couldn't. Yeah. He couldn't take that snap.
That's what they were saying. He couldn't hold on to a football, and
it all had to be shotgun work. Now they can get back to all items are available, but particularly Utah smash mouth offense. Correct. Which is not glamorous. It's not the ceiling that we had hoped for with this team, but it is something that should be able to take it to TCU and win by more than a field goal. That's what got me there. Agree with everything. And then let's just keep mentioning defensive line. If you can make a bet because you really believe in a defensive line, it's going to help you out in college football in general.
Yeah, and the Junior Tafuna, like, he's He's legit.
Andrew, let's hit a few more comments and then get out of
thing.
here. I want to appreciate John Metler, something I don't do very often, for appreciating the Uga art I have behind me. I still have a soft spot for that 2021 Georgia team. But John would have known if he tuned in earlier that you and I are both skittish over Georgia +5. Not necessarily a +5, but Georgia full game has us a little uneasy. So, John, next time, just get up earlier.
Get up earlier. Once again, yes, Georgia underdogs for the first time since week 1 of 2021. So,
speaking of Georgia, we had Carlos Bilbao ask us early on thoughts on Carson Beck over 264.5. And now that I'm reading that, I'm remembering I did write up prompts. You mentioned that when you discussed that Isaiah Bond handicap. And I'm pretty sure I took that, pulling it up to confirm. Yes, I have Carson Beck over 264 in that write-up. It is because they have been running the ball less, but more effectively. And when you run the ball less, it means you're throwing the ball more. Duh. And I think that combined with math, logic, both, that combined with my thought that this is a kitchen sink game for Georgia sets up Carson Beck over 264.5 passing yards.
He has been much more effective ever since the halftime in that Alabama game. And if you want to make the case that Texas hasn't played a team with a quarterback that can throw a football more than 5 yards down the field, I would listen to that argument as well. So there you go.
We have had multiple people ask us about the Utah State New Mexico total, including Jared just now. There was a comment earlier in the show asking as well. For those who don't know, it is a casual 77.5 or 78 if you felt like making the bad decision of not shopping around. I have not touched that. It is at 4 Eastern. I suspect it will just be a scoreboard fascination, but we should acknowledge that Utah State's defense is atrocious.
Okay, so my gut says this is an under out of principle. Like when you see a number this tall just in sports betting generalities, like you, for example, like, oh, there's a 2 touchdown underdog with a total of 40. You're taking the general rule is to go with the underdog. A total this high is generally an under. And yeah, Utah State's defense has been atrocious, but they've put in some effort the last few weeks. Like I've watched them compete, and I think I might lean under in the game. I think it's 77.5 points. Like it's so many.
You may or may not remember the contentious disagreement you were having with John Metler going to the Service Academy game, Air Force Navy. And I went, and my argument was John is failing to recognize that the extremes of college football do not get properly bet, do not get lines properly set. That's why we keep taking those unders. I went and ran the numbers on the overs thinking, if numbers break 70, my logic would be that they're still cashing the overs, and they don't. They get too high. So I am loosely agreeing with you. I am loosely agreeing with you on that under. A lot has to happen. A lot has to go right for that total to come home. It will be interesting.
That's like scoring on 90% of possessions.
I have New Mexico. I believe I got that at -2. I'm not going to find it in these notes. It was in my best bets column. But I'm still not going to I don't know that I'm going to be able to get myself to watch that one. We have Tyler Krennic asking wow, this is a good question for a Saturday morning. I like
this.
I have argued if you like Texas to win today, take Quinn Ewers to win the Heisman. You're getting him at 20-1. Texas, number 1 team in the country, beats our current dynasty. Tyler, what you're missing if you apply that same logic to Carson Beck is the end of the schedule. Texas gets Texas A&M in the final week. And let's remember, Texas is currently unbeaten. Georgia gets Georgia Tech. The week before that, you know who Georgia plays in its penultimate game this season?
Who? Tell
UMass.
me, Douglas.
UMass. You're not good. Yeah, so sure, Carson Beck can put up yardage on UMass. You're not going to have the spotlight on Georgia like you will on Texas. And so I do not like as much Carson Beck at 15-1 at BetMGM right now. I stick with my Quinn Ewers logic.
You can get that at 14-1. You can get Ewers at 14-1 at FanDuel. I don't know what he's at MGM right now.
20.
20-1.
Just
There
a
you
nice
go.
20-1. Just a nice little casual 20-1. We're gonna pile on me here. Brett Joseph is saying that it's not that windy in Evanston. So maybe we're not piling on me. Maybe we're giving me some grace, and maybe I did you a favor. Maybe I did you
There
a
you
favor
go.
with my mistake. I can hope because I didn't love getting that wrong.
I like that on the ground. We get some on the ground reporting. Look at the chat coming through for us here. Well, thank you so much, guys.
We
This is a
do
community
appreciate
now.
it. There were a few earlier on that note that I am scrolling. I don't know if I'm going to find it. Oh, Jared told us that the 325 plus yardage on Cam Ward, that's neg 104 apparently at FanDuel. There are always possibilities. Over 2.5 touchdowns for Cam Ward, plus 110 in some markets.
See, I like at plus 110. I'll take that there.
And I will point out Bobby Newport saying Houston will win outright 5.5 point underdogs against Kansas. I've considered this. I have considered this. I have not played it. I see the thought. I very much see the thought.
What happens to Kansas if they lose this game?
It's a bad season. Let's not forget.
Just,
Parker gave me a lecture the other week of let's not overreact how bad Kansas was compared to how it is now. Before we go down a Kansas rabbit hole, let's let the people have their Saturdays. Let's get out of here. How about you recap your bets? I'll do the same, and we will enjoy the Saturday football action.
So my remaining bets from Tuesday, we have the Ollie Gordon loss and the AJ Turner win, but we've still got Bama, Tennessee under 28.5 in the first half. Got NC State and Cal over 46.5. I just think that number is too low. I haven't seen anything on Ott yet today, but I think they'll still be fine even if he doesn't go. Baylor at Texas. Texas Tech minus 6.5. We noted that this line came down to 5.5. I liked the 6.5. I still think that was mislined at 6.5, so I don't really get the line move, but we'll see how it goes. Today, Isaiah Bond over 48.5 receiving yards. Miami QB Cam Ward over 321.5 passing yards. Texas State minus 9.5 at Old Dominion. Kansas State, West Virginia under 55.5. And Utah minus 3 as they welcome TCU to town.
I like them all. I'm going to note for bookkeeping sakes that your Twitter bet in the middle of the week will not count toward the podcast record because it was not given out on the podcast, Andrew.
I even noted this is a 134 bet.
No, not allowed.
I called it out. Oh, I think we need to make an amendment to some of these rules here, bud.
Take your winning bet and enjoy it. Don't get so greedy. My bets this week, all of them live today. Miami neg 4 at Louisville. That's now neg 5.5. That's why you tune in on Tuesdays. Georgia at Texas. First half over 27.5. The UCLA team total under 17.5 at Rutgers. That game kicks off real soon, and I don't know if UCLA's awake yet. Maryland plus 7.5 against USC because I think Lincoln Riley's about to have a problem. The Colorado money line, yes, Douglas Farmer, said the Colorado money line at Arizona. I got that at plus 143, and nowadays it's about plus 115. From today, the Georgia Tech team total under 16.5 against Notre Dame. Georgia Tech without Haynes King. The UNLV team total over 33.5 because that's how I'm going to pay my mortgage this year. Keep betting UNLV team totals. South Carolina neg 1 at Oklahoma to continue the Oklahoma offensive line problems. Andrew, I think that about does it for us. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. Have a good third Saturday in October, bud.
This is a lot
of fun. Good luck.
Let's enjoy it. Everybody go find College Football 134 on all your podcast feeds. We will be back here live next Saturday morning to preview that week's games, discuss all things college football gambling. Like, subscribe, come on back for more. We will record again Tuesday to then maybe remind people, which we forgot today, bet against Florida Live if they fall behind early. Bye, producer Jameson.